The monastery was really the happiest days of my life. For me, it was only that particular. I wouldn't have joined any other place. The main attraction to me was that it was a reading order, an order that was in love with words, and so we read all the time. In the monastery also, there's one of the wonderful things of joining it is not only do you change your life, they actually change your name. And the name I chose was Ignacio, simply because I was Jesuit.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Ambeth Revealed. Now we're entering our second episode, Sir Ambeth, no? Actually, marami ring hindi may alam, no, that you were actually a monk in a previous life, right? So that's what I truly want to understand here, no? Sir, in the first place, how did you even get to that life and that career, right? Ano nangyari doon? Anong life decision? Did anyone tell you to apply or whatnot, right?
No, we were not really a religious family. I'm not particularly religious at all. That's why people actually are wondering how or why I even entered the monastery. And actually, it's even more interesting. It's an enclosed order. No, it's not like Jesuits or what that you can see. This is a religious order that just prays 7 times a day. I remember when I entered the monastery, one of the people who was most upset was Andrew Gonzalez, who was the president of De La Salle University. And during my novitiate, kasi when you enter as a novice, for 1 year, you're actually secluded. So you cannot go out, you cannot be visited. Even within the monastery, you cannot talk to everyone. And simply because he was Andrew Gonzalez, he was able to, I think, bully the people to ask that he speak with me.
Yep.
So I went down, we talked in the parlor, and I remember distinctly, he warned me and he said, "Mark my words, if you stay in this monastery, what will happen to your scholarship? You will end up managing a basketball team." Because, you know, the monastery I entered is actually housed in San Beda University, you know, so which is famous for its College of Law and its basketball team. But I stayed just the same, no. I'm now in retrospect when people ask me why that particular order, and for me it was only that particular. I wouldn't have joined any other place. The attraction to Benedictine life was that one, it is an old order, no, goes back over 1,000 years. But the main attraction to me was that it was a reading order. In its
Okay.
beginnings, it was an order that was in love with words, and so we read all the time, not just scripture, but also other things. And you read 7 times a day. When we are eating, we don't talk normally. Somebody is reading from a lectern, so that the principle is while your body is being nourished by what you're eating, your mind and your soul is nourished by what you hear. But and also in Europe, Benedictines were known for knowledge and research and scholarship. So at the time, which our history books call the Dark Ages, the monasteries were actually the places of light. So monks were just copying out manuscripts because there were no books yet. So they preserved Greek and Roman culture from being destroyed. So it was transmitted to us because of that. So Benedict is also considered the father of Europe because the monasteries were actually the things that kept social life together. No, it was always the heart of a community, even if they were segregated. But you know, towns had to sell them food.
Yep.
People had to pray for the people, and so I thought rather stupidly that I could continue doing my scholarship in the monastery. But my abbot used to say, you know, tama na yung Philippine history Rizal na yan. No? My dream for you, which he never got, was he says, I want you to be, instead of doing Rizal, I want you to do erudite commentaries on Saint Bernard, mga ganyan.
Wow.
Because I had the tools to do it. In the monastery also, there's one of the wonderful things of joining it is not only do you change your life, they actually change your name. So you have
Oh,
a
wow.
choice. You have a choice because our names were given when we were born, right?
Yep.
We have no choice in it. This one you can choose. And the name I chose was Ignacio, simply because I was Jesuit
Yeah.
trained. And the abbot said, you mean in Ignatius of Antioch? No, Ignatius Loyola. And he says, but there are hundreds of Benedictine saints to choose from. Why do you want this particular one? And typical Jesuit trained boy, I knew the answer. I said, our monastery is the Abbey of Our Lady of Montserrat. Ignatius left his sword in Montserrat. So how can you say no? So I got that name. And on the day of my clothing, I remember one of the old monks actually posted an open letter to the community saying, if you allow Ignacio to get that name, it says, we all live up to our names and our patrons.
Okay.
You give him Ignatius, he will leave. Which is exactly what happened. No? So after 5 years, I left. I heard there was another Ignacio after me who also left. So I think parang malas na yung name. It will never be given to any of the monks after. No? But it was many people think that it's also physically, that was one of the attractions. So the monastery is inside the campus of San Beda University,
Okay.
and then we have Menjola outside, which is the place where all the demonstrations are, going to Malacanang. And so it's a very noisy street. But the monastery is built in such a way that when you enter, when the door closes behind you, you do not hear the outside
Grabe.
world.
What is it
no?
made of? Like,
Basta the way it's designed, no? Parang
Hindi, wala
walk in
talaga
the
narinig.
wala kang
Grabe.
hindi mo naririnig yung sa labas. And my abbot used to say, because we also have another monastery in Bukidnon, which was a reaction to Manila, which was, they felt was more worldly. So there was a breakaway community that wanted to go back to the original. So they wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. They work in a farm, no, not like San Beda. We live in a city, run a school.
Yep.
But whenever I would go there, for example, I would say, I won't wake up at 2 o'clock. I'm a visitor kasi I only sleep at 2 o'clock. So I'll wake up at 6 for morning prayer. And then they would put me under the bells so that when the monastery bells ring, magigising ako pero hindi ako lalabas, di ba? Anuin ko lang yung unan ko. And then I'd come out at 6. But I used to say that, when by following that wake up at 2 a.m., sleep at 8 p.m., that's because they were following the rhythm of sunlight. Sabi ko, today we have electricity. We
okay.
don't need to wake up at 2 a.m. No? But, so it's that, parang pilosopo daw ako masyado. But it was there where I read a lot. I also learned how to read differently.
What does that mean, sir?
In the world, we read quickly. We read to get
Para may output
information. We need output.
Yep.
So we don't read whole text. We skim to get extract
Exactly.
what we need. But dito, you're forced to read whole texts and then to read them very slowly, almost meditatively, which I felt in the beginning was a waste of time. Diba? But then in a monastery, time is irrelevant. Diba? So it taught me to, there is this thing called, which they call holy reading, lectio divina, which is you get the voice from the page, and when you read it, you read with your eyes, but it becomes a sound, and the sound enters your ears, and then in principle it goes up to your head and goes into your heart. So it's a different kind of reading. So I found out, for example, that early in monastic life, when they read, they did not read quietly. They always read orally. So it's only Saint Ambrose in the I don't know what century. Uh, one of the Saint Augustine was surprised to see him reading quietly na hindi nagano. So I said, how come they always tell us to be quiet in a library? Yung pala in a medieval library, maingay kasi nagbabasa lahat sila. So it was that, no? So unfortunately, Manila did not progress the way that it was.
Yep.
So I had, it runs a school. I can't spend my life just poring over manuscripts. But the thing that made me run away also was I was sent to do research in the mother house in Spain, in Montserrat. So the monk showed me, you're Ignacio from Manila. Okay, Ignatius left his sword here. So they showed me the sword. Of course, historian ka, hindi ka naniniwala. Paano nyo nalaman na yan yung sword, no? And then they would bring me down the mountain, Ignatius walked up the mountain. So this is the path. You go up and walk to the monastery. Why will I walk up? There's a train that goes up to the, so parang naloloka sila sa akin. But what was funny was, for 2-3 days, there was a guest master, a monk who's in charge of me. And I tried so hard to speak to him in Spanish, in my broken Spanish. And then, of course, later I sort of, researched him, and I found out he had a PhD from Oxford.
Yeah.
So on, I think the 3rd or 4th day, I said, you have a PhD from Oxford, no? So I think you can speak English better than me. Why did you let me struggle to speak Spanish with you? And then he says, you did not ask me. So okay, I sabi ko, now we speak English. So we became friends. And then he says, okay, I'll invite you to my cell for merienda this afternoon. So you can meet other monks. Okay, fine. So I went. And then, so may coffee, may chocolate, there was some liquor. And then, this was the merienda setting. Then they all sat down, this Ignacio from Manila. There are about 4 or 5 monks. Then one of the monks said, what are we going to talk about today? And then one of the monks said, why don't we discuss the 5th century Alleluia in Codex 365? Sabi ko,
what?
Ano? Yan that's your merienda conversation. Sabi ko, parang ayaw.
Iba talaga,
ko.
they're wired differently,
They're
right?
wired
They're really
differently,
wired differently.
And after a week, the abbot said, would you consider just staying here instead of going back to Manila? He knew the drill. He says, if you stay here, I will give you a key to the library. Diba? So he knew how to tempt, but because of that experience of people discussing 6th century codices, wag na lang. No? But when you think about it, that's what the monastery is. No, it's over 1,000 years old, with many manuscripts. And I was surprised one day. I was looking around kasi after dinner they have cigars and they have brandy and coffee. Then you chat, and then I was looking around the room, coffee room, and then I said, is that a Picasso there? Yes, that's a Picasso. Is that a Miro there? Yes. And then they said Picasso and Miro, being Spanish painters, they gave the paintings as gifts to the Virgin.
Grabe.
So, sabi ko, ay, original pala. Tapos sabi niya, yes, you can see more when you walk outside. So, because we live inside, when you walk inside the corridors, all the things that are museum quality, you will never see because you don't get in, no? Anyway, the Virgin of Montserrat, where Ignatius left his sword, is a dark virgin. Parang bulol siya, black. And then may baby na Jesus, no? So pilgrims go, and then they donate. But since I was a monk who was a visitor there, when the tourists, when they close na, so I would go by myself. Solong-solo mo yung Virgin. So one day I decided I will leave my sword in Montserrat, and it was a Mont Blanc, the big Mont Blanc pen. So sabi ko, marami nang sinaktan ito, no? So I will give this to you as an oblation of my life. Then I dropped it in the donation box. Then forgot about it. And later on, I told one of the monks, parang I gave my my sword. What was your sword? Sabi ko, a Mont Blanc. Why did you leave a Mont Blanc pen? That's so expensive. Just, it's symbolic. Just leave a big ball pen. Sabi ko, no, why will I leave a big ball pen? Naku, sayang. It's just there. No? Sabi ko, well, somebody will find it. Maybe they can sell it. But I felt it was an oblation. But the monastery was really the happiest days of my life because it was very ordered. No, every day goes like clockwork. No, I wake up in the morning. We have prayer. We go to mass. I'll clean the vessels. Then I will swim. Before I used to swim a kilometer because we had a 25-meter pool. So I would swim before breakfast.
Grabe,
With the swimming team of the school. So of course I'm not as fast as them, but diba you do the laps, etc. And then yun na, no, the whole day your prayer. I often think too that when I left, the monks probably found na nabawasan yung wine consumption kasi every morning then
Ikaw pala yung sir.
when I clean the vessels, because I was taught that the proper way to clean the vessels is not with water. The first thing you pour in
ang mahal, sir,
is wine first. Kasi di ba there are crumbs of host there.
Right.
So you believe that those little crumbs. So you have to make sure you don't add water to it. So you use wine there. So which is one little kara. So I pour wine on all 3 vessels, drink it, then pour water into it, drink it, and then clean it. So every morning I had a small carafe of wine, which made me happy and red, no, and helped me face the day, you know. So it's
beautiful.
It's a nice life. It's one of the things that I miss. You pray in common with a community.
For those
I cannot pray by myself.
Oo nga eh. Parang for those that are unaware, right? How do you even get to a monastery? Like, do you have, I don't know, like just like a job, like I don't know, you have to apply, you have to take interviews, right?
You have to apply.
I mean, how was the process there? Madali lang ba?
No, actually,
Nahirapan ka ba?
actually, it's almost providential. No, the director of the National Museum of the Philippines was an ex-Benedictine, and at the time I used to collect prehistoric pottery.
Okay.
And people in the house would say, "Ay, may mumu, may naririnig kami." I always believe people who see these things are of lower intelligence, no? So sabi ko, how come I've never heard this, no? But anyway, to appease the people in the house, so my mother might have thrown everything out. So I went to the director of the museum. I said, you know, can you come and bless the house? Kasi may naririnig daw, dun daw sa may pottery. And then he turned behind him. He had burial jars, 3 limestone burial jars. Anong momo yan? Tingnan mo ito, burial jar. Then he opened, tingnan mo, may buto pa. Oh, hindi ako tinatablan. And then he opened his drawer, and then he took out a medal of Benedict, which you see now used everywhere. And then he says, it's blessed na. You just put it in your house. No prayers required. Put it there and forget about it.
Yeah.
And then he says, if they still hear the things after a week, I will come and bless the house. Okay, I went. So I went home. Pag uwi ko doon sa Quirino Avenue, may jeep na bumangga sa akin sa likod.
Tragic.
So,
tragic.
alam mo, malakas yung bangga. I was on a stop. Siguro nawalan siyang preno. Binangga niya ako. And sabi ko, wala naman palang bisa-bisa tong medalya na binigay. Then, so I went out to survey the damage. And then I saw the jeepney driver scratching because his front was kupi talaga yung harap niya, and my car didn't even have a scratch.
Got it.
So sabi ko, how did that happen? Siyempre medyo naniwala na ako, no? So I put it there, no? Wala na yung sounds in the night. Then I started researching, ano ba itong, what is this medal all about? What are these letters here? So I found out they are the preface to the exorcism formula, which is why you have to memorize it and use it. Parang anting-anting siya. And then, so I read about Benedictines. Then I said, why don't I go to the monastery? And I remember my ex-girlfriend reminded me. We went book hunting in Recto. And I parked my car in front of the monastery. When we had finished our book hunting, the door was open. Ay, hindi ko pa nakita tong simbahan na to. Let's go in. And we went in the door and it was dark and the monks were chanting evening prayer. So we sat down and my girlfriend says that my famous last words were, pag kinasal ako, gusto ko dito.
Wow.
So she probably felt that was her. Yung pala iba yung ano, no? And then eventually, I started to attend the prayer all the time, going from Ateneo to
Correct.
Menjola. Then later, do you want to come and stay for a weekend? And that's when they found out later na paano mo kami nahanap? Kasi it's not open naman. You
Correct.
can go through the site. I said, no, the door was open. And then they said, the door is never open. Yeah, you have to ring the bell from the side. So again, I'd like to think it was providential. It was
My God,
open at that particular day that we were there. Diba? Kung wala yun,
Exactly.
nawala. So that was the call. So I mean, I don't want to be superstitious about it, but
Hey,
baka naman yun.
baka
diba?
naman,
It's
right?
just
Baka naman talaga.
too much of a coincidence to happen. No? So,
Right.
So I lived that life for 5 years, and
Okay.
although I left, I have the right to return. No, anytime.
Yeah.
Not have to repeat my training because I already have it. So, and I tried twice,
Okay.
but the 2 times I tried, the first time was my appointment as chair of the historical commission. So it was a choice between going back to the monastery or taking on something
So when you
new.
took it on, bumalik ka?
Hindi na ako bumalik,
okay.
di ba? And then, so twice I tried,
Okay.
no? But other things came
Got
up.
it.
Other things came up.
So sir, let's say if you were tasked to like write a book or essay about your time, as a in the monastic life, right? Tingin mo, and maybe for your students to read or whatever, like what do you think would be your main thesis?
Actually,
right?
I wrote about it. So
Okay.
I'm even as a novice, no, I wrote a diary. So part of my diary was
okay.
published by the Inquirer, and I'm actually horrified that some people actually read it and entered, and of course did not did not survive. No? But I like to think it's that. No, I always think that a monastery is there. Some people will
To slow
stay
down.
there all their lives. Some
Okay.
people come for a short time, but you are changed by that experience. No, and you learn many things. I often tell people that my 9 years in government, I would not have survived if I did not have monastic training because it taught you what was
Patience.
important.
Oh, okay.
For example, my sisters would be, paano ka kumakain doon? Ganyan. Hindi silverware yung ginagamit mo. Tapos sabi ko, hindi pwede palang mabuhay na hindi.
Right.
Diba? So you learn certain things, no? Because of the novitiate, for example, where I saw nobody for an entire year. The first person I saw after was former Vice President Salvador Laurel, who wanted me to help for the 1998 Philippine Centennial. So I had lunch with him, no? And then I came back, and then I slept for an entire day. And then I told my novice master, bakit parang pagod na pagod ako? Nag-lunch lang ako sandali, tapos natulog ako buong araw.
Nasip out yung ano mo, no?
And then he says, kasi dito you don't have to talk to anybody if you don't want to. Sabi niya, nag-lunch ka lang, but for a few hours, you had to be Ambeth Ocampo again. And that's when I realized how much being Ambeth Ocampo takes from me. Na doon wala, di ba? I'm not Ambeth Ocampo in the monastery.
Grabe yun, ha?
If I don't want to be disturbed, I just pull up my couch. Hindi ka na istorbohin, di ba? If you're reading, they don't bother you. If you're praying, they don't bother you. But in the outside world, they don't leave you alone, di ba? You cannot even commit suicide alone.
Exactly.
Because everyone wants a piece of your time. And so,
Wow.
I think that because of that, no, I knew, diba? I could sense what was important to me, what was truth to me. I could make a clear decision all the time and not be blinded by other things. So that's what monastic life
Got it.
does, and I think it has a lot to teach modern people. No, this was also, I mean, why will you pray? Who cares if you pray, di ba? But in the monastery, in the morning, there's a particular gospel thing that we read. It's called the Benedictus. There's a line that talks about the rising sun will visit us. And I always remember that whenever we would chant that, I could see the sunlight coming out of the front door. And when we would pray, we had to pray we prayed the Psalms. There's 150. I found out later there were particular Psalms that were taken out because they're very violent. So parang you're praying that God will get your enemy's children and dash their head on the rocks. Sabi ko, anong klase yan? No? May their wives become widows. May they become like snails that are exposed to the sun and become slime. Sabi ko, grabe naman ito. So they were removed because they were particularly violent. But I prayed those violent psalms, and I had particular people in mind when I prayed. And one of the monks used to tell me that, parang useless tong ginagawa natin, no? And then itong mga psalms na parang violent, you find that very bad. But sabi niya, somewhere in the world, there is somebody who needs an avenging God. You are praying for that person who does not even know that you are praying for them. So I felt that was parang it really is a life that is totally the opposite of what we live.
Yeah.
Diba? You live for other people. You pray
Sobrang
for people
selfless.
who do not even know you pray
nga
for them. Diba? So what's the point? And yet you do it day in and day out.
What do you think, sir, is the optimal time frame, to be in a monastery? Like, may minimum ba yan? Or pwedeng 6
some people
months?
come for a day. Many people who
But
come...
would that be effective, sir?
I think so. Some people come for a weekend and escape during the night. And when we asked, why did you escape? Kasi masyado daw tahimik. They cannot take silence anymore.
Takot na, no?
So it's scary for them, no? Or then when you think about it, the Thais have not only military service, they have monastic service. So they're not going to become monks, but they have to serve a particular time. And it's that. They enter for a particular time, shave their heads, beg for their food. It teaches you something. And when you leave, that's something they cannot take away from you. So in a sense, for me, that's one of the important things.
Okay. Sir, I'm trying to converge as well. You being a historian, right? Were there any historical figures in the Philippines, no, that had actually monastic life with them na very particular, no? Very particular.
Nick Joaquin wanted to be Benedictine.
Wow.
So he did his novitiate in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Which nobody knows about.
Okay.
No? And the monk I looked up to the most in Manila was called Bernardo Perez. He was also a writer and a scholar, almost like me, late vocation. He was actually my inspiration. Somebody who can give up a life of scholarship and learning and just disappear into a monastery, no? But I felt in my case, the monastery had a hard time because after my novitiate, I started writing again inside the monastery. And I remember one of our abbots during visitation, parang, why are you allowing Ignacio to write under his old name? Why are you allowing him to travel with his... I traveled once with Fidel Ramos. We went to Malaysia on a visit, and he particularly asked that I wear my habit. I said, Mr. President, that's a Muslim country. So much the more you come and wear that. And I mean, he was Protestant, di ba? But when we went, so the Abbot President said, you have to let him decide what he wants to do. And so my novice master, very pained, told me, if I do my job, I should ask you to stop writing. But what you are doing is also important. So I cannot tell you. So I decided at that point that so that you won't have a problem, I will leave. So
Grabe.
and return back to the world changed in many ways.
Sir, in your, I think, I mean, you as a historian, almost every day you do very intense research, right? I guess, have you ever came upon any archives, no, that show the history or the origin of, the monastic life in the Philippines, right? Paano ba to nagsimula? Kailan ba to? Ano ba yung naging mga upbringings nito, no? Kaya ngayon, it is an option for like yourself, diba? That you entered into this community.
Well, actually, the monastery is rather new. 20th century lang siya. The monks came in the end of the 19th century. Hindi sila parang Augustinians, Jesuits na very early nandyan. During the training period, they have to give you manual work. So my manual work was mopping the cloister. And my mother actually, when she visited, because I have the softest hands in the family, softer than my mother's and my sisters.
Okay.
And so she would touch it, tapos nakita niya parang may kalyo, tapos parang naiiyak na siya na sa bahay hindi man kita pinapahawak ng walis, tapos araw-araw ka nagmamap dyan, di ba? And then, to appease her, I just said, Ma, just think this is kalyo from golf clubs. No? So medyo na ano siya. But, that, just mopping the floor was one of my joys because it's just physical work. No? And it's like walking or going to the gym. Your mind is free you think of many other things while doing something physical. Eventually, there was a move. Somebody said, why don't you let Ignacio fix the library up? Yung pala, all the library, they removed all the Latin, Spanish, all the things the monks could not read. They threw up in the gym. So they said, paayos mo yung doon. And then, so of course, I looked at it. There were 17th, 18th century books. There was manuscript music. There was a lot of historical material there. So I was cleaning it, arranging it, and then some people complained and said, hindi, ibalik mo na yan na mag-mop sa floor. And then they said, why not? And then sabi niya, kasi although he's fixing the library cleaning, which is more intensive than mopping the floor, he will enjoy what he is doing. And that actually made me think, why should my manual work be detestable to me? Diba? Why can't it be something that I enjoy and I still do the work? No? But I think because of my background, they thought that was the proper thing to, but it didn't matter to me. I mean, because I lived abroad, so I cleaned my house, diba? I cook my own meals. It wasn't a big deal for me. But and also that they had to take me out of ano ba ito? Ayun, they thought it would humiliate me by cleaning the bathrooms. But sige, I became because I'm obsessive compulsive. So talagang I would muriatic acid. So when they enter, you cannot enter the bathroom for 3 hours because
sinagad mo.
Sinagad ko na ano yung mata nila, di ba? So talagang anong-ano, di ba? And then parang, nako, baboy nito. So ito yung nakakatuwa. Di ba yung in the bathroom before we had those sprinkler things, they had that little wire there, and then you to clean your butt. And then parang there was one that was always dirty. So one day I decided para hindi na to magamit, so I stepped on it so it would it would deform. So the next person who used it, parang it squirted everywhere. And they were very, I mean, they were amused. So they know, di ba? Ignacio cleaned the bathroom today. So para, can I use the
May tatak mo
bathroom?
na.
Oh, di ba? So eventually, they put me somewhere else. So, ganyan, mga strange things. No? And then I had an old novice master who followed, you know, medieval, ano. So he wanted me to, why don't you weed the grass? Of course, I don't know how to weed the grass. So nakalbo yung aking plot. Then later he says, why don't you catch the fish in the fish pond and move it to the other fish pond? But he didn't want me to use a net. I had to catch the fish with my hands. Sabi ko, I'm not a fisherman. How can I do this? No. So eventually, they had to change him kasi daw I was always answering. Sabi ko, no, I'm not answering. But I just want to know why. Kasi sabi ko, you know, obedience is not a problem for me because even if the person, I don't like the person who's telling me the order, I will see beyond him and see God asking. So, I said, alam mo, gasgas na yung sinasabi nila sa atin na didiligin daw yung bato tapos milalabas na bulaklak. Sabi ko, hindi naman totoo yun, no? Sabi ko, how? So, eventually, they had to give me a younger, more contemporary novice master. And that's why I enjoyed myself because I'm an only boy. My novice master was only a few years older than me, studied in Rome, had a lot of experience. He was an artist. He made icons. He was the big brother I never had. So, and I guess I was the younger brother he never had. So, we got along very well. So, my formation became same because of that. But it's there are many firsts too. No, I had never touched a dead person in my life, but one day there was a monk who died, and because I was the only one who could drive, so they said you have to bring him to the. Anyway, we brought him to the funeraria, fix him up, and then next day the abbot says you have to go back and you have to bring his habit.
Yes.
Kasi he has to be dressed in his habit. So I went to the funeraria, nakasara na yung kabaong, then nandun na yung, pwede na ho itong dalhin. Tapos sabi ko, hindi, dala ko yung damit niya eh. Anong suot niya? Pwede ba buksan niyo ulit? Then they opened it. Then he was wearing a barong. I said, this man has never wore a barong in his life. What are we going to do? And then yung pala, so alisin niyo yan. Damitan natin. And because he's hard na, no? So they have to sit you up pala. And then the monastic outfit, we couldn't fit it in anymore. So they cut it in the back.
Okay.
So that they put it in yung na front. So anyway, basta dinihisan ko na siya. Nakagano. First time you touch a dead body. Obedience kasi. So parang nakagano na. And then, sara nyo na. And then one of the monks came carrying his false teeth. And then sabi ko, ba't hindi mo binigay ka? How do you expect me to put it inside? Matigas na yun. So I put it inside his legs pa. Sorry hindi ko mapapasok sa ano mo. So I put his dentures inside, closed him up. And so in a sense, parang ganyan, no?
Grabe,
Things
no?
you wouldn't normally do.
Exactly.
Diba?
Do you think?
But you...
Yeah. Do you think, sir, like people entering into this community are only for those na, I would like to think, medyo komportable na sa buhay, right? Kasi I mean, kunwari, may breadwinner ka. Paano mo naman iwan lahat ng duties mo, you know, constricting you from the daily lives of, you know, having to earn a living for your family and whatnot, right? And drop it all just to enter a monastery, right?
Actually, yun ang mali, because I was an experiment. I was a late vocation. So normally, they get people straight out of high school, then they take their college while they're there kasi they're easier daw to morph.
Correct.
No? But so an adult is harder kasi daw
malalim
form
na yung
ka
models
na.
mo, right?
But I felt that you should enter after college with some work experience because it's a life that is different, diba? But my abbot said, I entered when I was 12. So-and-so entered when he was 14. Look at us. I said, yeah, but the world is different. I said, you entered at 12. You cannot even vote or drive or drink. So how can you make a decision on the rest
Correct.
of your life, di ba? So, so they experimented with me, di ba? I'd like to think it opened the doors so they would start accepting also people who are much older.
Simula,
I don't know lang.
after your stint,
I
right?
don't know lang kung many people survived after, but as I mentioned earlier, that's it, no? Some people come for a lifetime, some people come for a short time. A monastery is there for
Got
to
it.
change you in some way or another.
Ganda. Okay, so I think I'm off to my, I think, very last question, sir, right? You know, I mean, in a nutshell, how did this stint in the monastery shape you in your profession right now, right? You being a historian, right? Did it help you look deeper? Did it help you not just settle for the surface level available information out there, right? Anything that helped you?
Well, Benedictines are known for their love for learning and their desire for God. And I think, God is truth in all its forms. That whole idea of just research and validating things, that's whole Benedictine tradition. Goes back
Talaga.
centuries. No? So that's something I already knew. But I'd like to think that what the monastery taught me was, again, that no, to see things differently, to see beyond the surface, to try to find what is not spoken in a text but is there.
Grabe.
So it gives you a sensitivity to many things. No, I mean, like, especially in monasteries abroad where they're stricter than Manila, na we really do not talk. Like when you're eating, it teaches you to be sensitive to the other because you cannot ask for water. So while I don't only
Really?
eat and look at myself, I also look at my neighbor. Ay, wala na siyang tubig. Nasa akin yung pitcher. Lalagyan ko na siya even without asking. 'Di ba? Because you cannot verbally ask, 'di ba? So it's that. So
Grabe.
it taught you how to care for other people, how to be sensitive to other people, in many ways. And I think that, like to think it made me a better person, but if not a better person, a better judge of human nature, no? Which is something you won't really learn in school. Something you learn in another school, which is what a monastery is.
Got it. All right. So, thank you guys for joining us today. And thank you, of course, Dr. Ambeth, and for sharing to us your life as Ignacio. Right? I think this is an exclusive content. I don't know. I'm not sure if this is written somewhere, sir. Right?
No, nobody.
But it, I think, showed us a different point of view of the Ambeth Ocampo that we know and love, no? Yung very busy. Yung late
yun
natutulog, di ba? at maraming sinusulat.
Late din kami natutulog doon. while we're supposed to sleep, di ba? We do, when you have your own cell, you do other things.
Correct.
So,
Okay. All right. So thank you guys and have a great day.
yun. Very good.
Solid,